All right, welcome to class. Good to be here with you today. So we're going to be having more of a direct focus today on posture, though all the poses we try to integrate sort of that natural alignment concept. So we're going to do the things that are really needed to create awareness and holding us long and strong without that constant effort. So these are postural tricks and things I've gained over the years that we'll be doing. So props needed. We'll need a wall or door space, just enough that you can stand against it and use it for support. 2 blocks, or if you have a big dictionary or 2, that might work, and 2 tennis balls and a belt. So an extension strap, if you got something, even if it's like a little robe belt or something that's about 8 feet long would be helpful. All right, so let's begin. We're going to have our mat cleared, our goodies just off to the side here. And we'll start with just a little centering and then go right into a little Eric Schiffman warm-up of shaking and circling arms and shoulders. So get settled in your feet. And I'm hoping through our time together, our months or years working together, that you're starting to sense where your mountain pose is. So I talk you through it pretty often, but I want you to be able to find that on your own time, because it's really the one yoga pose that you get to take with you day in, day out. Even when you set up sleeping or you're sitting in your chair, it can show up. So as you find your mountain, as much comfort currently in your body, and we probably know our habits. I know mine is, for years, it was my pelvis sliding forward. I still work with the head wanting to come forward and the shoulders. So those are mine. So find yours, just so you're aware of it. You know what your kind of things that you're compassionately working with. And then either eyes soft at the floor or close the eyes if you feel stable enough and safe enough for that. Begin to breathe in through the nose and a good flushing breath out. And do that a few times. So with those exhales, just sort of put to the side or put it on a shelf, whatever's been going on today, whatever you've been carrying in your mind and heart and body recently. And then breathing in and out of the nose, just start to create a soothing inner environment through the body and through your physiology. So it's so interesting. We can work all different methods. We can work on our emotional states, we can work on our mental states, and then affect the physiology. We can work energetically, that has to do with movement, with maybe things like Reiki, with chakra work, and that affects the whole system. Or you can approach it more directly from the physiology through breath and movement, and then your emotions and your mindset and your energy changes. So just know there's many paths and doors into feeling better. And we're trying to integrate quite a few of them here. So just feel your energy, feel it centered, feel your current plumb line. And that may feel different at the end when we try our mountain pose after working with tips and tricks for our posture. And there's a part of us that starts to drop back as if we were leaning into the back of the body and being able to peer out into ourselves and just see the landscape. What are you bringing to practice today? So maybe we weren't able to exhale it all away. That's okay. Just notice it from that wise and gentle witness within you. And stuff will go through and more stuff will come. And we're just in this place where we're able to recognize, honor, and let go. So if you have an intention for your practice today, let's seal that, or maybe just your presence of being here. Hands come together at the heart. And you may put it into a feeling sense or words. And then before we release, let's just send our gratitude out to each other as we practice together from an energy perspective that bolsters one another. So even virtually here, which space and energy is, it's not bound by being in the same room, we hold each other up here. So just feel that for a moment, the gratitude for other yogis being with you here. And then let your head bow. And release your palms at your sides. Softly blink the eyes open if they're closed and breathe the head up. Excellent. Let's step the right foot forward, left foot a little back. This is the gentle warrior one stance. So you get a little calf Achilles here and you're going to rock. So I'll show that from a slight diagonal. You guys see what I'm doing. So we do this one fairly often as a warm up and you're just being real easy with the joints. You can practice already not locking the joints as say the front leg straightens. So that's a postural cue right there, not just slamming the knee back every time it needs to straighten. Then the inside left arm is going to rock with that. So depending on shoulders, you can just let it swing at the comfortable height and stick with that. You could also try back of the hand forward and then back of the hand back. So you're spinning the arm a little differently. Or you could do palm forward and palm back. So even those subtle rotations will change the sort of fascia wiring from shoulder to hand. And then just find a comfortable one. And then maybe that starts to get higher up. So I'm going up and over already, but you can choose, well, that's about my height today. And then maybe it gets that feeling of like, okay, maybe I will go all the way over. Some variations on this for shoulders, go out to the side. So it's kind of like a reverse sidearm pitch with a backstroke motion to it. So it wouldn't be nearly as high, and the shoulder joint may be more apt to handle that. Now start to engage different energy levels. That means kind of different speed zones with the arm. So it's not necessarily going faster, but sometimes it's a relaxed arm. It's kind of almost dangling and going for the ride. And other times you might really reach up through an index finger and glide back, reach up through all fingers and glide back. So you can make it more energetic in that way. And then you can also get a little more shoulder blade and some of the muscles along the side there, the lats, by rising up, take the fist and pull down, and then rise up, grab and pull down. So you'll feel a lot more work through the pectoralis and the shoulder. So just keep customizing. These are just some ideas for you. Good. And then let's try the every other one, where the arm's just going to swing, just kind of comfortable, and you're going to rock and swing forward, and then rock and swing back. So it's just kind of this little slower movement. And each time we're changing directions, it's on that forward motion. Good. You might feel a little numbing or tingling going on with all that swinging. All right, awesome. Now stand, let the arm dangle like you're turning a doorknob. Start with that. And then the fingers get kind of wily and they start to almost look a little quantum as they move quickly through space. And you shake that all the way up through the arm. So just think of all the fascial tissues, the innervation that's wrapped in there, the muscle tissues, of course, even the bone joints that you're really making space. So do your best Michael Phelps imitation there. Shake, shake, shake. Get those tissues to move. Good, good, good. And if Olympians are doing it, there's something to it. All right, and then stand well. And boy, you should probably have a little bit of a different arm there. And different tingling, different sensation. Mine always ends up longer, a bit concerning, but we'll fix that. And then left foot forward, right foot back, and just begin the rock. So get the little dance motion going. You're rocking warrior one here. And then you can just start with kind of a low, easygoing swing. So this is good practice. I hadn't thought of this when I learned this 20 years ago from Schiffman. It was always his warm-up, Eric Schiffman. But it's a great contralateral information piece too, so that you're getting that opposite leg and arm working together. And then that might start to get higher up. You might try palm facing forward, palm pushing back, a little different awareness, different feeling. You might try back of the hand pushing forward and back of the hand pushing back. Continuing to get feedback from the body and listening to that wisdom. Good. And it may get higher and it might start to come all the way over and you kind of slow it down and then reach again. Could be kind of a lazier arm, could start to reach through maybe each finger, so that'll be a different nerve line. And then maybe all the fingers and thumb. Remember, you have the side arm option as well. That'll give you some rotation, but not taxing that upper range. And you can go back to being softer about it or being more intense with it. If you want to do the pull down, grab with the fists and pull gently. And again, you decide how far back. You might go more out to the side, or you might go more toward the wall behind you. And if it gets to be too much, always just take a break. Even just shaking that arm out, maybe you come back to it, maybe you don't. So this is some stamina. We're doing a longer version of his warm-up. All right, now let's do the every other one. So you rock and you switch. One backstroke movement, one forward stroke movement. I'll show that from the side if I can get it down. So the arm swings down each time you rock forward, and it shifts directions each time you rock back. Good. Excellent. Last one. And then stand and turn the doorknob. Get that little gyroscopy hand going. And then start to shake it. Sometimes it just helps to hang the arm a little. Let the gravity say you're giving it over there. Let it shake all the way up. Excellent. Now you might need some balance with this, but it's just a leg shake. So we're gonna put some weight on a slightly bent right leg, left foot out to the side. That'll help, we're working a little that cantilever over the hip, but there's some sway to the right hip, and it'll help you balance, arms out. Just see if you can shake the foot. Through the years, I've seen a lot of ankles over the years that are so stiff, the foot can't quite dangle very well. So just notice your own, and if you can kind of let go there a little bit without the joints being bothered. Don't want any pain, of course. And then that foot shake kind of makes its way to wobble all the way up to the thigh and the buttock. All the while, you're also strengthening your right hip and glute. And then I have the happy dog version. If you want to try that, you flex the foot and you do a quick little shake, 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 shake. Scratch your ear. That's a rhythm, isn't it? All right, and then come back. Whew, all right, my right butt's already tired. So let's take the weight over to the left, a little bend so it's a soft leg, thigh crease back, firm in the hip, arms out. Start with just the dangling foot. See if you can, part of, I think, a masterful connection with your body is, can you engage one part while completely pretty much letting go, and another part? Easier said than done. And then that starts to make its way up to wobble all the way up through the leg into the buttock. Feel that strengthening, that spaciousness in the left joint. Right there, that capsule aspect of the hip. We want that lifted and spacious. Good. If you want to try the happy dog, bend the knee a little, flex the foot, do a quick shake, scratch your ear. All right, awesome. Whew, all right, so I'm already tired. So once you're standing there, so that we did an extra long one, but even a short version of that is a nice warm-up for preparing yourself for even a little flow class. So next, we're going to grab our tennis ball. So feet, always important with posture. If anytime you're seated, you can massage your feet, maybe you're watching TV, you can lace your fingers through your toes and give yourself a yoga handshake. There's something called yoga toes or toe spacers you can use. Wonderful to keep the feet and toes actionable. So nice, easy massage. Remember with plantar fascia, I would do light pressure and then maybe ease into medium light pressure. Don't go gangbusters on it. And you start working it around. So you're finding as much surface area as you can. maybe even around the heel bone. If it rolls away, just bring it back. We won't spend too long on this one, but I want to definitely get your feet some attention. All right, then just for sake of awareness, we'll use this later, let the tennis ball rest, or whatever massage ball you have. The foot stays lifted. You don't have to put the foot down unless you need to. But right at that saddle point, I kind of call that curve in front of the heel. I'll show you my foot, the saddle point. So it's right at that point where the arches meet in front of the heel. And that area, just don't even push hard, of course, but just feel that connection. That's a certain, what they call marma point, which is like the pressure points of yoga, that has to do with posture. So sensing that space, and it brings you into a mountain pose when you can sense both those spaces on your heels. All right, let's switch feet. So just begin in your timing, standing well, conscious of what the hip and buttock need to do to take care of themselves. So if your tendency is to swing it over and collapse, or tuck under, or lock the leg, these are things to become conscious of, and add some more awareness to it, more muscle. So get as much surface area as you can. Remember, sort of move toward the gentle side of this, not pressing real hard. All right. And then see if you can bring it in close enough that your foot's not way out in front of you, and just rest gently at that point in front of the heel. Root to rise through your other leg, so we're reducing any collapse that happens just with time in being there. And just sort of tune into that spot. All right, now let's grab both our tennis balls, come to your wall or door space, and we'll do a quick upper back massage. So just to access more of our postural freedom, the low, mid, and upper trapezius, all those erector spinae, the rhomboids, they usually need some help. So tennis balls or massage balls together, buttocks at the wall. Some people put these in a sock so they're more easy to handle. And if you can put them at the wall between your upper back and your fingers, then you can scoot the tennis balls a little bit at a time without, they may fall, but a little bit at a time. You start to inch them down, just a couple inches down the shoulder blades, in between the shoulder blades, not on the spine. Then you lift the buttocks away, you get your feet stationed, you feel strong, and you're leaning into the massage balls. And then see how it feels to do your little up and down motion. And just adjust your feet. You don't want your knees to be irritated by that gentle squat. And my feet are out far enough that when I bend my knees, they go about over the bridge of the foot, but they don't go to the toes, because that's a lot on the knees. So just that first shiatsu chair-like move, just up and down. Notice how it's feeling for you. You might find, oh, I have a spot, like right now I have a spot on this side I'm going to lean into. Just explore that a little bit more, maybe a little circle into it. And you can add all those different things we do. So you might do little circles, even up and down that little space. You might do a side-to-side shimmy without the ball crossing the spine. And you can do that at different levels. Watch, they might pop out at the top. And then you can add in chicken wings if you want. And watch the sliding, because especially the fuzzy tennis balls will tend to slide. Some of the other rubber ones might be better against the wall. And so the shoulder blades and arm bones start to move, and it gives you a little different access to the muscles. And you can do some pretty nice trigger point work on this, and a little more easeful than doing it on the floor where we kind of lean an elbow into it. So especially if you're really tight, this is a way to modulate the weight that you put into the tennis ball, because you decide, I'm working my inner shoulder blade right now. There's some stuff there. So it can be a way to work even longer massage work where you rest on it for 5 breaths, you breathe into that trigger point, that kind of thing. And then you move on or you deepen the pressure once it's relieved. All right, fantastic. So let's put the hands to the wall, carefully walk your feet back in, tennis balls out of the way. And we'll set them down. And then from there, we're going to have the belt nearby, but just go back to your wall. And we're just going to practice. Now, this is an exaggerated mountain pose. This is not the way I teach posture, but if you have a ponytail, you'll probably want to move that. And if your head doesn't make it to the wall, you don't even have to do this today, but you could add in just like a folded towel, not something that's going to shove your head away, but something that'll give you the ability to get the head to the wall. Now, this exaggeration is probably going to jut the ribs out for us and just make sure it doesn't hurt. So we're sort of exaggerating the heightened posture, so when we step away from it, we have some new information. So heels, won't probably touch the wall. You got to give room for the buttocks. The back of the legs won't touch the wall. And the buttocks will. Low back curve won't. Lean a little bit forward and roll your spine up the wall. So it's kind of that go clay move, Esther go clay. And then the arms, they can go out to the sides. You can maybe touch the elbows to the wall. Some of you might feel okay with the back of the hands to the wall. That's asking a lot. And then you can either turn the palms to face in towards you, thumbs forward, or you can rotate slightly out or all the way out. The head, if it's having some trouble, because I know it's a lot to ask because you're exaggerating, you can pull up the nape of the neck so that lengthens the base of the skull. And then see if you can rest your head there again. So again, meant to be an exaggeration, almost like how we use the floor when we're doing some of the psoas releases. And as you're breathing here, as long as you don't have any sharp pain anywhere, see if you can also anchor your ribs, like we do, while the wall is giving you this very linear feedback, maybe more linear than we want our everyday posture to be. And breathe. You can close your eyes or keep them open. And just receive that information from the door or the wall. So even a little washcloth might work behind the head. If your head is way uncomfortable or the chin's jutted way up, I would just skip trying to put the head to the wall now. We'll do one with the block that'll work you. And I can feel my arms as I'm having the backs of my hands at the wall. I can definitely feel that. It's not hurting, but it's like a continuous stretch. I can feel my back ribs, the upper mid ribs, trying to figure out how to stay connected to the wall. And of course, my chin's wanting to pull forward, one of my things I work on. All right, now, softly open the eyes. Let your arms get a little closer to your body, but not touch. And then just start to peel your head, shoulders away from the wall, your buttocks away from the wall. So now you're just an inch or two away from the wall, and you're standing in your mountain, and just kind of see what the feedback memory is in the body. And you might feel a little longer. So it's an exercise. It's not how we want to walk around in our day, just so that's clear. All right, excellent. So now, next phase, so how we work on retraining postural habits, we're going to use our belt. So it's that more simplified X behind the heart. So I'll walk you through it. And you want to bring the belt back behind the shoulder blades, so you bring it underneath your armpits, across the shoulder blades. It helps if it's not twisted because it's more comfortable then. Give yourself enough slack. This is a long belt. This is about 10-footer. If you're about an 8-footer, you can probably even it out. If you're about a 10-footer, you probably won't need that much. and then take the straps over the same shoulder. So if it's on the right, the left side there, you pull the left side over. Careful with the buckle if you have something heavy on that belt. And so it looks like you're wearing kind of a backpack. Then from there, lean forward and get your thumbs underneath there and switch them, so crisscross them. So you'll end up with an X there behind your back. And then just so you can let go without losing that, tip forward, your shoulders will hold it, then you can reach your hands around and grab the straps, and there your X has shown up, okay? So once we get that, then a gentle pull out to the sides. Notice the ribs will go whoop and kind of pop out, but we'll chill that out later. So just get the shoulders comfortably wide, no digging, no cutting off circulation. And then you can either latch it or tie it. So you just want enough that you can bring it around and have some support there. Actually, so mine's not clanking. I'm gonna go ahead and loop it through. So this is a nice one to do just even every day for 3 to 5 minutes. Once you've been at the desk for a while, or even if you're at your desk. Currently, the arms might be a little T-Rex-like, hard to reach, but it's a great reset for the shoulders. So let's use that along with the awareness of mountain pose. And then we're gonna add a little pull to help those ribs. So just stand well and just kind of feel for a moment what's different for you in the shoulders. One thing it does for us is it opens up the armpit zone so the arms hang off the body and you're not trying to squeeze back and you're not slouched. So it's going to tell you what's going on right here at the front of the arm bone. And it's going to tell you if the ribs tend to jut out because you'll feel it press into the belt. So it's some great training wheels for us. And when we're in a good mountain pose, the arms are slightly off the body. That keeps the shoulder blades in this lovely position, the collarbones wide, and the arm bones spacious in the joints. All right, so then here's a slight support exercise to get the ribs to anchor. We're going to do a variation of Kathleen Porter's natural alignment move and see if you can grab hold of kind of up by the shoulders, kind of like right here, okay? And pull up. And make sure it's not pressing negatively in that space, especially your diaphragm. So get it on the ribs, not at that hiatal space at the top of the diaphragm. So pull up a little and just feel that the front pulls your ribs into that anchored place. So that is a more neutral rib position. And I don't want you to feel like you're slouched. That's never, we're not aiming for that cashew nut shape, but feel that angle. And then let that sink in for a few more breaths. Let the head slide up and back, which we'll add to that in a moment. And breathe. Thighs are back, belly's a little bit toned. Good. And then just slide the hands forward, let them hang off the body again, but receive that marker, that information, like, oh, okay, that gives me a palpable sense of what anchored ribs are. Now, a lot of this is also to get some languaging down for us, so when you hear me say something in another class, you're like, what is she talking about? This is going to help with the head stuff. So, few things we can do to find head alignment. Nape of the neck one is the one I'm using a lot lately. So take both hands to the nape of the neck, kind of getting hold of the hair there very gently. Still retain your anchored ribs. Grab the hair very gently and ramp up and back. So it's an angle diagonal up and back. And that action, sometimes I talk about the mama cat carrying the kitten, lengthens the base of the skull, opens up C1, C2, gives the neck vertebra a lot more room. And what you'll feel is that your head will feel slightly tipped forward, maybe, like the forehead softening toward the bridge of the nose. And that action allows the gaze, when it's open and relaxed, to be as wide as possible. So it's a good instinctual, biological position for the head, because you can have your head about you. You know what's around you. And then lighten that up. So that's one you can do any time of day. Just, practice anchoring the ribs, roll the shoulders open, and give your head a little whoop, a little pull. The other one that I'll talk about sometimes is the ear gears. So this is kind of like lengthen the neck. If your ears represented 2 gears, you would lengthen them up and then click them forward, maybe 1 click, okay? So that gives you a sense like, okay, am I there, or is my chin a little lifted? And that would be old school posture, by the way. That's how I used to teach mountain pose. This is updated, so it's a little bit of that tip down. So that's your ear gears. And then an oldie but a goodie has to do with an internal experience of the skull. So bring your tongue to the roof of the mouth and feel the little rough washboard part, and then slide back till you find that softer, smooth upper palate. So that's representative of pretty much the center weight of the skull. And with your tongue there, imagine that you have a little washer attached to it, so it's kind of going to pull right where your tongue's at, and it goes straight up through the skull. So with your tongue there, pull up, and it's helping also sort of align the one floating bone in the body, the hyoid bone in the throat. And when we can find that sort of soft place where we're not over-exaggerating any tension in the neck, but that upper center soft palate pulls up. And that's a great place to draw your axial extension, or your pulling up through the top of the head. And then relax that. So, and the last one I'll give is just some language that Doug Keller uses. I call it the bean sprout, which we'll do at the wall in a moment, but he talks about a swan head. So if you can picture a swan head, its neck and back of the head come around, and then it drops into that forward position. So if you can think of your head never just shoving back and never just pulling up, because that's going to give us results that are mixed. So chin may lift too much, or you tighten the neck with that retraction. It's not great. So think of the swan within you, kind of drawing the head back, broadening the back of the neck, broadening the head, and then it comes up and over. You might even take your fingers and just softly draw down the face to remind you of that sort of regal position of the swan head. So all those bells and whistles come together. Obviously the lower body's in place, but focusing here on the rib anchoring, the shoulders being held in good stead, and however you can relate to that when you hear me talk about the nape of the neck, ramp up and back, ear gears, soft upper palate, or the swan head, all those things are trying to get us to relate somehow to what the head needs to do. All right, awesome. So if you can, if you're okay with the belt, let's keep that on, and we're going to grab our blocks, come back to your wall space, and we're going to do the bean sprout. So this is another way of just kinesthetically finding all those little funky head things I was just talking about. So you might need to move your ponytail again, but your block is going to be flat, and it's going to be at that, you know, where the biggest space of the back of your skull aims. So we have different shaped heads too. So you're kind of feeling that for yourself. Your feet and buttocks stay away from the wall on this one. And you make sure that, like for me, I'm definitely going to have to get rid of the ponytail. It's shoving my head too far forward. Do not let your neck crank underneath the block. The point of the block is to give you some room that we may have needed in that first exercise at the wall. So get the head in that swan-like position. Your warrior's gaze is on. The shoulders are away from the wall. The hips and feet are away from the wall. And then if it feels okay, your feet may just inch out a little bit. And then just see how it feels. Your head and neck and upper back are now holding some of the weight of the body so you don't fall backwards, right? So then you can add a standing bridge pose to this. So feel the back of the neck. Make sure that the way up at the base of the skull is still fairly soft. You might feel a little bit of the tendon standing out, but it should be malleable. It's not hard. It's not sticking out too strongly. Okay, so that's a happy, healthy neck as long as it feels good to you. Then we're going to shrug the shoulders up. So here's your bridge part of it. And you're going to roll back toward the wall, but pause there. Instead of dropping the shoulders, you're going to pause there and just imagine hanging your shoulders up on 2 hooks that are connected to the wall. The wall you will not touch, but imagine the hooks got you. And then the palms can open. Keep checking with how you're doing. You can always come out early. And if you're doing well here, now a true bridge pose comes from the heart moving up toward the angle of the ceiling and not the chin tucking. So make sure you don't tuck the chin here, but you could Move the shoulder blades back a little bit more if it feels safe. That's a lot on the shoulders. And the heart moving forward. The knees aren't locked, so you're checking in. And yeah, your pelvis is forward, but don't just let it tuck and suck, okay? And then breathe. So a minute a day on this, or if you can even do a couple minutes spaced out during the day. This will really help retrain that forward head, quote unquote, syndrome. Even anatomists, they like to use the word syndrome a lot. So just meaning it's a kind of chronic thing. It's sort of how we land in our bodies. This can help reprogram that as well. So a few more breaths. Notice the work that's happening. You get this great muscular response where the head will grow up on its own because of all the work you're currently doing. Once we release the work, you'll feel that. And that's why I call it the bean sprout. It's like the bean sprout pops out of the soil, it grows tall, and it curls forward. There's your swan head. Okay, so let's bring the hands to the block. Walk your feet back in. Release the block, and in that few seconds, you'll feel your neck grow up. Most of us will feel that response of the head doing the little swan up and dropping forward. Awesome. So again, if you can keep the belt, we're just using that as the training wheels. If it's not cutting off important circulation, we'll keep it on. And then you can take your blocks and stack them. Now we're going into a little bit more lower body work, including the importance of the gluteus medius and the relationship to psoas and our feet. So I'm putting both of mine together like dominoes here, flat, connected, so that I don't have my heel or toes hanging off. You can do that as well if you've got the two blocks. Be close enough to the wall you can support yourself, but it's not jamming up your shoulder. And then my suggestion, if you've got both blocks, put your that little spot where the tennis ball was at the front of the heel, put the split between the blocks right there. All right? And then we're going to stand, slowly rising up, putting pressure into a strong, straight standing leg. I didn't tell you which leg, so whichever one you're standing on, we'll call that the standing leg. And then your other leg's going to start to hang. I'm going to move a little bit away from the wall, give my shoulders some room. And so you mindfully straighten that leg, taking the weight of the body into the standing leg. And then let's check in with all the things you've already done. So thigh crease back, definitely toned in the hip, the anchored ribs that you felt pulling on the belt, the shoulders are being trained nicely by the belt, hopefully, and find your head position, the little bean sprout memory. And then just place your the inside hand that's away from the wall onto the pelvis. The pelvis is going to stay mostly quiet here, hardly any movement at all, as you begin to swing gently, like a little pendulum weight swing of that dangling leg. And your standing buttock on the one on the block there, the foot on the block, should start feeling it pretty quickly. It really targets that upper gluteal, super important area of the body to have a functioning stride, to have hips that don't drop forward. It just changes the posture big time. So you're breathing, you're resting if you need to. Don't cramp up into anything. If your buttocks get too tired, please rest. So this is a length and strength move, right? You're learning to stand without locking the knee. You've got this beautiful posture going on, and now you're adding strength by adding some sort of resistance effort or extra effort of this swinging leg. The other thing, the bonus here with the swinging leg, is it releases that psoas. So that dangling position we don't get very often. And it just helps release that motion that we use to walk every step. Awesome. Now pause, bend that standing leg, lightly step down, and take a moment just to check in. Stand in your mountain. And I want you to notice the difference between the standing leg that you had and the dangling leg. And just what's the feedback there? If you could drop into it as sensation and sort of a little analysis of the two. I always feel like that standing leg is a little farther back in space. The buttocks definitely like, okay, I know my job now. And part of that is keeping the thigh creases back without over-efforting. And it sort of just feels more grounded to the earth, like it knows its job now. So we're just kind of putting the responsibility back into what it takes to stand well. And then we'll go to the other side. So stand, if you have that little crevice between the blocks, put it right at that saddle point where the tennis ball was in the heel. Get your foot well planted, whatever your mountain pose foot is. Press to the tires and slowly bring it up so that knee straightens with strength and takes on the weight of the body without locking. Have a good support with the hands, shoulders are good. Check in with your posture. So the standing buttock, starting to fire already. Thigh crease is hollow. Ribs are anchored. Shoulders are broad. Nape of the neck ramped up and back. And your other hand here on the pelvis, just to sense that it stays pretty quiet through this. So we're working with what I call a strong, straight standing leg when we're doing classes together. So that means you're not living on a bent knee. That would be absolutely exhausting, like you're in a squat all day long because you're not supposed to lock your knees. But it's in a space that's learning to stand straight right before the knee locks. And that's a great spot to balance out the top of the knee bone, which is your femur, and the bottom of the knee bone, which is your tibia bone. And we want that space. So the meniscus and all the ligaments there are happy, as well as your patella, the floating kneecap. That gets really irritated and worn when we lock knee. So, is this leg stronger than the other that you're standing on? Interesting to see. This is tends to be my little bit weaker side, so I'm feeling it. And that may mean that you stop early. It could also mean that you start with that leg if you do this on your own, and then you do a second round on it. So you just come back to it when it's recovered. And that way you start building some symmetry. Because we all have, we're just asymmetrical. That is what it is. But it can help reduce compensations when we start to strengthen the weaker side. All right, just about done there. See how your posture is doing. See if your glute's on fire. Excellent. Slow it down. Come out mindfully. Slowly bend the standing leg and lightly step the dangling foot down. Come back. Let's stand again. Your check-in. Good. And then just as things settle, notice what you've sort of retrieved in your posture, what feels different, and let it sink into you. Good. Excellent. Now we're going to use, so this is just kind of an interesting exercise for that point at the heel, that marma point. And you basically take your blocks, and you can face the wall doing this. You can have your hand to the side. I'm going to show it from the side. And you create, with the flat blocks, a little river, kind of, we'll call it the canyon space between the blocks. And so they'll be a little narrow probably for our hip socket width stance, but see if you can step, and it'll be kind of near the saddle point of the heel and the back part of the arch. All right, so step one foot up, then the other foot up. And again, it's a narrower mountain stance, but just a sense of how do we find neutral up through the body. For some people this works. It's an interesting kinesthetic exercise. So toes spread out. Hopefully there's enough room for them on the blocks. Mine, it's close. And then the heels grounded, the balls of the feet sink in. And if you can feel that canyon, the little river running through it, underneath the heels and the back edge of the arches, it may already be informing your body. So it's kind of like you're straddling the two. And in that, you're going to find a balance right in the center. And you might even just kind of dip your head down and look and see that your knees will hopefully be stationed without locking over the ankles, and your pelvis stationed over the heels and ankles. And so that's that hollow space that translates into your thigh creases, translates into your sacrum low back for its curve, and then anchor the ribs. Shoulders open, so you might even add a little bit more of your opening with the ribs anchored, and bean sprout the head. Thumbs forward or slightly turned out, and if you're hanging onto the wall, continue. And breathe. Don't close your eyes, keep them open here. Have that big open monitoring gaze. So if you were the warrior walking in the Serengeti here, soft and open gaze, alert, calm body, but ready to respond. How much of the periphery is expanded for you? How much of the floor and the ceiling can you see at once? I can actually see slightly behind me, not just to the sides. So that's that sort of biological, maybe biological imperative of having your head in position that allows your eyes to see what's happening. See if you can breathe the next few breaths out into all sides of the belt. So it's an expansive cylinder breath. Very good. And then a little bend to the knees. Take the hand to the wall. If it isn't, carefully step down. You don't want to tip off one edge of the block. And then step down, shake it out. All right, now we can finally take off. If you still have your training wheels on here, let's take those off. And you can take it off like a coat, so it's a little easier than getting on. And just a little more, I'm going to move my blocks so they don't distract. A little more information on the knee lock. That might be a little elusive to find, like, well, what do you mean not locked but not bent? There's some exercises throughout my yoga alignment history that helped engage the muscles needed. We may need to build the muscle for that. We may need to unlock some pulled long tendons. So if you can bend with butt back, good posture, and touch the tops of your shins, that's below the kneecap. One of them is this old school move of shins forward, thighs back. So it's an active action. Lengthen the neck, find your swan head here. Good, beautiful. Press the shins isometrically and lightly into the hands. And I want you to go minimal, just enough to feel the muscle go, okay, I'm there. And then see how it feels to go a little straighter. You do not have to go all the way straight. Your hamstrings may not agree to that. A little straighter with the thighs moving back, but the shins continue to push forward. So yes, it's a dichotomy. Like many of the things I ask you to do, it's this and, not either or. So shins forward, thighs a little bit back. And you do not have to straighten your legs with that. But you're building the muscle and information needed to be able to stand without slamming your knees back every time. And that's with walking too. There's a lot of people who walk, when their heel lands, that knee locks back with no awareness. All right, now bend, walk up to the top of the knees, get your chair pose. And let's just inlay, since we do chairs a lot, we do this transition a lot. Can you feel all the information you took in today? So can you feel the rib position? Can you add the shoulders? Can you ramp the head back, a little bean sprout? So that it really starts to inlay. No matter what you're doing, it's there. That length and strength is something you start to carry innately. It becomes what's called intrinsic. So the muscles know, oh, this is home. And when you get off of home base, it doesn't feel good. So let's walk up, pelvis moves forward, and roll the shoulders. Excellent. So then the last one on the knees that I'll teach, when I taught intro for years too, was trying to explain this action of the knees, is what I called the pop caps. So you have a popliteus muscle that crosses the back of your knee. And if you can imagine, its action is not actually to do this physiologically, but or anatomically, but you can think of that kneecap popping a little bit forward just to unlock it. So let's find our feet. I'll just walk you through it quickly. Find your feet. And in contrast, once your feet are grounded, go ahead and carefully lock your knees. So it's as straight as it can go. Some of us maybe hyperextend, it even goes back a little farther. And just notice, just for a second, it's a great quick notice. What's the tension? I can feel a whole other tension level in my legs. I don't feel as connected to the earth, but I feel really a heightened tension through the bone structures, through the ligaments up to my hips. So just notice the quality, because we get ungrounded with that. And then little pop caps, just like, and what I mean, there used to be these little metal toys that you could pop back and forth, like that. Just do a little pop cap behind your knees. So it's just that minimum from locked to pop cap. I know it's subtle, but it's one way of kind of thinking about it. How do I get this into my body? So with the pop caps, now notice that, oh, energy flows down into my feet, literally. In the military and weddings, they warn you, do not stand lock-kneed, you'll pass out eventually. So you are cutting off actual blood flow if you stand lock-kneed all the time. So feel that. And let's go through a whole mountain, then we'll come down to lie down for a little bit. So toes spread out, tires grounded. You feel those beautiful arches lifting. Remember the point in front of the heel, little saddle point? If those had straws on them and you could sip up a little bit of the earth, that's an odd thing to ask. Some people get this and they can feel it. But it pulls up through that point. It actually kind of whoop, it moves up through your hips and thigh creases. And then you don't have to hold that tension, but it just kind of aligns you. So from the feet, maybe the sipping straws, the knees may lock and then pop cap them. The pelvis is in that position where you stood beautifully on the blocks and did all that work. The ribs, you might even just kind of give yourself a little lift and re-anchor. That's something I still work on to fill up that mid-back and kidney zone. And then the shoulders, I hope the belt is still there with you, the memory of it, but you can touch the shoulders, lift, and just broaden out. Please don't pull back and don't pull forward. And then while we're here, nape of the neck, even just once you do all those works that we did today, you can just touch and it goes, oh yeah, there's the position. And then hands come to your sides. And my elbows bend a certain way. I have a different carrying angle than some folks. So you let your arms be what they need to. Don't try to straighten or force them. Thumbs can point forward. You can slightly rotate out. Some people really love the feeling of thumbs all the way out. For others, it's too much. And then just feel this information. This is your yoga that you get to carry with you day in, day out. And really the purpose of so much of what we do is to keep this healthy, happy, spacious posture that found its length and strength, and now it gets to relax into that some. You start to do the little seaweed feeling where you allow the internal organs to soften. You allow your roots to go deeper into the ocean floor. Now we start depending on some Newtonian physics of ground reactive force. So the arch shape of your foot, when you get the tires heavy, the arch rises without your effort. When you get your knees aligned, there's arches there. The knees feel a little buoyant. Hips, same thing. You are built like the beautiful Roman arches. Hips, you get positioned well, they rise up. Each spinal vertebra, same thing. So you're having this heaviness once you're aligned come through you. And the ground reactive physics is that the buoyancy comes back. The roof of the mouth, think of that arch rising up. Armpits, light and rising. And breathe. Maybe close your eyes, maybe just a soft gaze. But inhabit your mountain. This calm, steady place that through awareness, neuroplastic connections, our physiology, we then start to express who we are, our thoughts, our emotions, our energy into the world in a different way. Here we know ourselves better. We're anchored. We understand the feeling of ground of being. And then we carry it into all we do. Don't be afraid of the sway. Just means you're alive. The breath gets to course through you. And then bring your hands to Anjali Mudra at your heart and keep everything well aligned, but just softly bow your head. May we carry this internal awareness with us. We find our strength and length in order to eventually come into ease. And with that, release your hands, blink your eyes open, and inhale the head up. Lovely. You look very tall. So let's prepare a little Shavasana time. So you can choose to do seated meditation if you're feeling that, or you can lie down. Add in any props you would like for comfort. And perhaps whether you're seated or choosing to go supine, you can feel a difference there. It just starts to change every activity, every movement that we do throughout the day, including how we lie down. So see if you can soften, whether it's into your seated mountain or fully connected to the back body on the earth. And feel what it is to hand it all over, that there's no effort required on your part here. Let tension drain from the front body to the back body. Let your breath be soft, taking over for you. And just rest here with yourself in your own inner space. And very, very softly begin to return awareness to earth and sky, the support around you. Notice your whole self, the integration of your energy, mind, body, and emotions. So those false little separations we make in order to work with ourselves, you really begin to sense your own oneness, your own wholeness. And let your breath continue to weave those together as you expand upon it. Gently move fingers, toes, maybe a sway of the head, or a desire to stretch. And when ready, bend into your knees, walk them in. Give yourself a hug there as the knees come in. Rock gently. And roll to one side. As you support your head, breathe into your back. And just appreciate that wise witness that is you. Carry that perspective with you through the day. And on the inhale, press up to your seat. And our hands, they join at our hearts. We breathe into that larger capacity of our posture. With our hearts light, we let our heads bow. And from this ground of being, we move back out into our lives. May our connections represent that wholeness, that wisdom, that compassion and kindness. And to each other, we say namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Thanks for being here.